Hey everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Follow me on all the social networks. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find the links underneath this video. If you're on the blog, subscribe there also for sure. You don't want to miss out on things I send out to my email list. And if you want to follow me on social media, if you want, you don't have to. Go to my bio and then I have all my links there. You can also email me, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com, or call or text 949-415-6256, and I will get back to you all. I may not do a video for every single person, but I will get back to you all. And I'll keep you anonymous. That's the best part. So let me get to the first question. This one's all about informed consent forms, so if you're not interested in that, then you probably won't like this video. But if you are, there's definitely nothing like this that exists on YouTube, so you're definitely in the right place. Alright, so the question says, hey Dan, first let me start out by saying your videos are fantastic. So thank you very much, I appreciate that. And my coworker, she took your advice to follow you and add you on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much. At these two coordinators' institutions, some members of leadership, in this person's words, make up, for a lack of a better term, rules and guidelines because it gives them a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. This is one of those problems. Please help. So first of all, I get the feeling that your institution is a large organization. It's kind of top-heavy. And I know what you're talking about. I'm sure many can relate. Alright, this is why I like the smaller organizations the best, because they're nimble, they can adapt, they don't do things that slow you down, which is kind of like what we're going to be dealing with in this email. So, the current debate that we coordinators have is that we need to put 2 identifiers on each page of the informed consent document. So, this would be something like initials and a date of birth, I'm guessing, alright? So 2 identifiers on each page of the informed consent document. At first, management stated that this was because putting the information on each page showed a monitor that the research subject received the copy of the forms. So I don't know how putting 2 identifiers on each page would show a monitor that the research subject received a copy of the forms, because if you put only one identifier, like their initials, that doesn't show the monitors that the patient received a copy of the form either. Nothing shows that except perhaps a note to file stating that a copy was given, which is what my clinics do. Right? So then I was told that it was because if the forms got mixed up, let's say I tripped carrying 2 sets of forms and they all got jumbled together, I would be able to find which page was which for each subject. That makes more sense to me, especially if you have 2 subjects with the same initials, or 2 subjects that scribble on their forms and you really can't tell what the initials even are, and then you might mix them together. That would make more sense, although what we do is we tell the subjects to print clearly, right? They can't scribble. Usually monitors don't like that anyways, scribbling initials. So whenever we see that occur, we have them line out the scribble, initial and date, and then initial again, clearly. So even if that were to happen, you can easily put them back together. Then, lastly, I was told that it was just because. So this person goes on. Now for me, just because simply isn't a good enough answer. The other 2 reasons are particularly well thought out either, but that's besides the point. I did some searching on GCP and ICH guidelines and found nothing, because there's nothing out there. The informed consent process is relatively vague, and it's left up to the discretion of the investigator ultimately. I mean, sponsors and CROs might have some guidelines of their own, like internal guidelines, such as you shouldn't scribble, although the FDA doesn't necessarily even comment on that. Usually sponsors and CROs do. Where are we here? So there must be some guidance to what a coordinator has to do if they write on a page of the informed consent. So there's no guidance on identifiers being on each page, but just to stay on the safe side, we usually have them initial every page. or initial and date every page. Sometimes they have the initial line and then the date line. Sometimes it's a blank form on each page, so you can just initial and date. I usually have them initial and date each page. To my surprise, it appears to be the general assumption that there will be no writing on pages other than the signature pages, so there is no clear definition as to what we are to do. That's not entirely true. I mean, we've had, like, if you're doing the informed consent process and the patient, or let's say the physician or the coordinator, is explaining the informed consent to the patient, I've underlined things before in the informed consent, so I'm writing on the page. I've had situations where a patient would like write notes on the side to themselves or to show their family later, or like highlight something. Usually they'll like underline something. So you can have writing on the pages. This person goes on, I feel that if I'm applying 2 identifiers to each page of the informed consent, I should also date and initial each page to confirm that I was the one who placed and defined the identifiers. Could you help me settle this? Yes, I can. So, unfortunately, your institution's making life difficult for you, alright? And I don't blame you for being a little frustrated. So what I would do, I would have the patient write their initials and then date of birth on the bottom of every page. Alright, and you can go in and put DOB ... and then they write their date of birth, or you can just leave the DOB out, and if someone ever asks you, you can say my institution's policy, and it should be written down somewhere. My institution's policy is that we have 2 identifiers on each page. So I'm assuming at a large institution like this, if they're asking you to do this, it's probably in their SOP. So if a FDA or a monitor or a sponsor ever asked you, what is this date here? Let's use mine, 7/12/81. So mine would be DS, and then I'd put 7/12/81 if I were a patient. If anyone asks, what is this 7/12/81? You say, it's my institution's policy. We have 2 identifiers, so we ask everyone to write their own date of birth on each page. Now you just got to make sure that they're writing the same date of birth on each page, and they're not accidentally writing the year that it currently is instead of the year they were born. Because if these informed consents are usually like 20 pages, sometimes even more, so if you're not paying attention, you might be assuming they're writing their date of birth, and they may be writing their date of birth mixed with the current date. So some pages might have their date of birth, some pages might have the date. On top of that, it could be very confusing if you're having them put their date of birth and then next to it or underneath it the current date. I could see how if I were a patient, I'd be personally annoyed by this. Writing my date of birth, 7/12/81, and then writing today's date, 8/26/15 on every page. I'd probably make a mistake if you gave me 20 pages right now, right? So what I would suggest in this case, have them initial and date, and then have them put the second identifier maybe on the top of every page, or go through every page of the informed consent first and have them just initial and date it where they should be dating it, and then go back and in the upper right corner or some corner that's not where they've already written their initials and date, choose another corner where they could put their date of birth. So it's even confusing for me to explain this. I'm getting frustrated right now just explaining this. I feel your pain. Unfortunately, sometimes these large institutions, they have nothing better to do, or staff there need to justify their salary, so they come up with stuff like this, right? That's what I would do, right? Take care, let me know how it goes, and let me know if this helped, alright? Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.